is that time again. Welcome to Studio 5. We're exploring the issues of race through the eyes of the entertainment world today. So let's fire up the countdown and begin our look at the best in uplifting entertainment. At number 5.
Where the old lady, she's like, help, I'll call it, and I can't get up. First thing I'm thinking, why don't the cameraman help her? He right there.
Michael Jr.'s comedy special is in theaters for one night only, Thursday, October 18th. This is not just a film. It seems like it's the beginning of a movement.
That would be awesome. Yeah, so there's something that happens in the film. I'm not gonna give it away either, but the film itself, first of all, this has never been done before.
It's a bit of a call to action.
I don't just want them to laugh. I want them to be inspired.
But you go to the people who can't be in an actual shelter, so they live in the woods. He's special needs, and he recently passed away.
Because, yeah, I wanted to be funny.
There's a little thing at the end that, or close to the end, where I kind of break the fourth wall a little bit, and people aren't expecting it. And when you see this movie, I'm hoping that something kind of cool could take place, but I won't necessarily give it away. You gotta see the movie.
At number 4.
Sorry, we do not have the wherewithal in this family for any of you kids to be special.
It's a sitcom set in the 70s with mom and dad raising 8 boys. This is a look at ABC's The Kids Are All Right.
And follows the Clearys, a middle-class, no-frills Irish Catholic family.
I turned 12 in the summer of 1972, an awesome time to be a kid. Bike helmets hadn't been invented yet, or car seat belts, or even normal adult supervision.
Mommy, my lungs are dying. I have asthma.
No, you don't. We can't afford asthma.
In the first episode, the eldest son returns home and announces he is quitting the seminary.
This season promises lots of heart and even lots more laughter.
What about that Watergate break-in?
You know what I call Watergate? That's phony news.
We fired up the countdown, so now let's begin our look at race in The Hate U Give. The best-selling novel is now a film, and it traces the story of a 16-year-old who's trying to balance essentially 2 different lives, one in her largely poor black neighborhood, the other in her mostly white and wealthier school. Here's your Studio 5 first look.
And action!
Mark. B. Mark.
The Hate U Give is about a girl named Star Carter. She goes to this white private school filled with very privileged kids who don't spend a lot of time around people of color, but she's grown up in the hood with her black family. And so she's constantly navigating, having to almost split herself into 2 parts in order to fit into both worlds.
My name is Star. 2 R's. Daddy named me that. Garden Heights. Mama and Daddy says our life is here because our people are here. We got Mr. Rubin's barbecue, Mr. Lewis's barbershop, and Daddy's store. The high school is where you go to get jumped, high, or pregnant. We don't go there.
It's about a young black woman kind of finding her voice.
It's about speaking up, being heard.
It's really about family and community.
Star! What's up?
Star lives in different worlds, her lower income black community and her white private school.
Garden Heights is one world, Williamson is another. So when I'm here, I'm Star version 2.
She's constantly having to split herself into 2 parts in order to fit into both worlds.
I have to hide who I am. When I'm at home, I can't be too Williamson. When I'm here, I can't act too Garden Heights.
This is about her awakening, this is about her journey, and really realizing I'm gonna be who I wanna be.
That's all challenged when this really tragic event happens.
Go back where he told you. Khalil, I'm not playing, go back. What did you do?
She's the one and only witness.
Today, Garden Heights is reeling after the shooting of a 17-year-old black teenager by a white police officer.
And now she is faced with the dilemma of, does she speak out?
So when you're ready to talk, you talk.
It's really challenging for Star to think about the level of responsibility that she'll take on in being public.
Violence, brutality. It's the same story, just a different name.
I need to speak for him. It's about black people, poor people, everybody at the bottom.
No matter who you are, find your purpose. Whatever you're here for, speak up and be heard.
You too can get out here and be about change.
Don't ever let nobody make you be quiet.
Everybody who experiences struggle can take that struggle and turn it into something golden.
We live in a complicated world.
No, it doesn't seem that complicated to me.
As a generation, it's time that we stand up and start taking responsibilities for our communities and take them back.
The movie gives a message that's, very real, but also very, very hopeful.
I love being a part of a film that I think is really culturally, politically critical.
The Hate U Give is in theaters right now, and the best-selling book is also available wherever you purchase your books.
And still to come, our look at race continues.
And if we would get past the us versus them mentality.
With the author of The Third Option, Miles McPherson, joining the conversation.
And welcome back to Studio 5. Our countdown of the best headlines in uplifting entertainment continues now.
At number 3.
One step at a time, and hopefully we'll start a family in the near future.
The future is here for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
We also generally couldn't think of a better place to announce the upcoming baby, be it a boy or a girl.
Announcing their baby news during their Australia tour.
That's fabulous. We're all very pleased. We knew it was coming soon.
She's an American princess. She's also just a really cool woman. And I think the world will be blessed to have one of her kids in the world.
At number 2.
She tryna to between me, Justin Quay and the sword. She told me that she love that I make music for God.
Chance the Rapper becomes John the Lyft driver.
What's your name?
Desi.
Desi, I'm John.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Chris.
Ashanti.
Miss Ashanti. I am John. I will be your driver today.
Going undercover to raise money for Chicago public schools.
One of the things I like about this, the Lyft thing, is they got the round up and donate. I'm trying to get, more involved in the city, do my little piece of activism when I can.
Yeah.
This unknowing writer is Desiree Hemphill Davis.
A lot of my friends, I think, are going to see the video and say, there's no way you could not have known, but I definitely did not.
You ever met Chance the Rapper?
No.
You could meet him.
Get out of here!
You can help Chicago Public Schools through the New Chance Fund.
It was just a simple way to donate to Chicago Public Schools, and it was something I wanted to do because I'm a product of Chicago Public Schools.
With that, we've only got one more headline left to go. We're continuing our look right now at race here in Studio 5 and picking up the conversation with Miles McPherson. The NFL player turned pastor has penned an eye-opening new book titled The Third Option, Hope for a Racially Divided Nation.
We were all made in the image of God.
Before taking the pulpit as pastor of the Rock Church in San Diego, Miles McPherson played professional football in the city with the Chargers. And at one point off the field, he battled a cocaine addiction and broke free.
Humans are genetically 99.5% genetically identical, no matter what that person looks like.
He's now looking to set people free from racism, opening eyes and hearts with his latest book, The Third Option, Hope for a Racially Divided Nation.
This is a different take on the whole racial divide in this country. What inspired you to do this?
I did not know 80% of what's in that book when I started it. I learned it because as I was writing it and I started to do research, I wanted to give people tools. In every race conversation, it's about us versus them. You have to pick a side. But the third option is that we would honor what we have in common. So I said, I know I could figure out how to communicate this to everybody. As mad as people are and as angry and hurt and as divided as we are, I know I can figure out how to empower everyone to come together, first looking at themselves and then understanding each other, other people, and giving people a better understanding of what others go through. So that was my goal, because I didn't want to just write a book because I'm a pastor and say some things, and because people are going to call you out, right? And so this topic was so divisive that I had to write something that everybody can apply to themselves.
One of the chapters, you talk about blind spots. I believe there's 9 of them.
I wrote 9
that I mentioned here. The one that hit me the most is interpreting or internalizing what the others think of you, and then reading that I realized, oh my Lord, I have entered so many rooms where I was the only, and I began to think of myself as smaller because of what I've heard. And
there's 3 kinds of racism: institutional, systems that hold people down, divide people; personally mediated, where I just don't like you because you're different. But then there's internalized racism, where you begin to believe and adopt the criticisms of your critics. And so you're told you're less than, you're told you're not smart, you're told what you won't do, and you begin to believe it. Once that happens, then you don't need a racist in your life. You're your worst racist. And that is something that people have to really think about. You know, have I internalized what I've been told? And not even said to your face, it's just the message of culture.
Yeah.
That, you know, you're brown, you stay down, right? And so that's a very important thing for people, whether black or whatever you are, in whatever neighborhood you live in. Every color, white being a color as well, by the way, every color has its own burden. To really identify what's my burden, and have I internalized that where I am now my own worst enemy.
The conversation about race, or at least the race issue, seems to have percolated even more so in the last couple of years. Am I wrong in my assessment there, or do you feel it as a pastor?
I do feel it. I think people are more, good news and bad news. The bad news is I definitely feel it. I think people are more vocal. However, I'm encouraged because I think people are tired of it. People who wouldn't talk about it before, churches who would never say anything before, are saying something now, and vice versa. I mean, blacks, you know, the internalized racism thing, or being patient and being graceful to people who are making mistakes, saying stuff that they don't know what they're saying. That's why we have blind spots, right? And so I'm excited because I see people, even though our country is more divided, I see people standing up saying enough is enough. After the Charlottesville incident, a lot of people said, I'm not doing this. We have to celebrate everybody, no matter what they look like.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure
talking to you.
Thank you.
Miles McPherson's book, The Third Option, is available wherever books are sold. You know, pictures freeze memorable moments, so let's take a look at one worth seeing in this week's Studio 5 Snapshot.
And this week, we highlight an artist who uses his gift and his platform to paint pictures like these, shining a light on the issue of race in America.
I'm always obsessed with improvement and pushing painting to something more spectacular than what it already is. I take a lot of social issues, a lot of political issues, even segregation or issues about objectification, and I try to depict them in painting.
His name is John Moody, and his work has made it all the way to the White House. And he's now here on Studio 5, where he's this week's Snapshot. Still ahead.
Perhaps the white man doesn't understand what the black man is going through, but we won't understand unless we have the conversation.
The conversation continues with a message in music from Major.
We can move mountains if we do it together, y'all.
And welcome back to Studio 5. We have made it to the final headline in this week's countdown of uplifting entertainment news.
At number 1.
Gonna love me to death.
Our Kathy Lee Gifford keeps busy. Her next project is this children's book, and it's titled The Gift That I Can Give.
Kids' self-esteem is a tentative thing, and you have a certain window of time to build that up. And do you want to let the world do it? Do you want to let the Lord do it?
Yeah.
And God says that He made no mistakes with you. You have every talent you're ever going to need. You've got every bit of pizzazz and personality. You just have to start trusting that all those things are there, praying about them, and asking God to bring them to the forefront.
And that wraps our countdown. For this week, it's been a show where we've been looking at the complicated issues of race through the lens of entertainment. Music is no exception. Take a listen at why this tune from the artist Major is what's playing in my ear.
We can break down and rewrite the law if we do it together, y'all. We can build bridges race to race if we do it together, y'all. Giving the world a change of pace, we can do it together, y'all. Everybody say, something's gotta change, something's gotta change right now. Right now, yeah. Right now, yeah.
And that tune brings to mind a powerful film we shared in Studio 5. It's an American biographical legal drama about the first African-American Supreme Court justice and one of the first cases of his career. Race is at the heart of the story. In case you missed it, it is still worth taking a look at Marshall.
Nothing from the piece are true. Nothing. You've presented a defense that is based completely on lies and deceptions.
Sterling K. Brown's performance as Christopher Darden in The People vs. O.J. earned him an Emmy in 2016.
They just sent over Deja's file.
And?
Her mom's in big trouble.
He adds another trophy to the shelf in 2017 for his performance in the NBC hit series, This Is Us.
People vs. O.J., This Is Us, you seem to be riding a beautiful wave right now.
I am indeed.
Where does this film for you fit in that wonderful wave you're riding?
So I need to know this. Look at me now. Did you do what they said you did?
I never touched that woman.
Okay, Joseph. You got lawyers now.
This is the first film that I've done since O.J. and This Is Us. So it's sort of a new foray for me from the small screen to the big screen. And it's exciting. You know, like it's one thing to come into people's homes on a weekly basis, but it's another thing when people, you know, get a babysitter and go out for an evening and hopefully come enjoy a film in the cinema. Yeah.
Were you familiar with this Thurgood Marshall story before coming to this role?
Not at all. It was one that was completely foreign to me, and so I got a chance to get educated in just the research of this particular story and inspired by the example of this young, just how young he was. I think he was 31, something at the time. But he had the chutzpah to go across this country fighting racism with his incredible legal mind. Like, I'm 41 now. I'm like, Brown, you're slipping on your pimping, baby. It's time to get it together, you know?
I tell you.
Yeah.
Some have compared this, even I think the screenwriter compared this to the O.J. Simpson case.
Oh, really?
I'm curious if you see any similarity. You are, of course, the person being defended in this story.
Right.
And you coming from The People vs. O.J., do you see any similarities to the case?
That's interesting. Not so much. I think O.J. Simpson was a very particular defendant in that he had celebrity on his side. He was also 2 years after the Rodney King beatings, and so he was dealing with a jury of his peers that were all too ready to see police misconduct as the status quo, right? Whereas in a situation with Joseph Spell, he doesn't have any fame. Nobody knows who he is. He doesn't have any education or access to the greatest legal minds, but he was fortunate enough to have Thurgood Marshall come to his defense. You know, O.J. Simpson had sort of a glowing image of like the epitome of the realization of the American dream.
Yeah.
Joseph Spell looked guilty, not only because of the color of his skin, but because he had gone through a dishonorable discharge and had a wife and children that he had abandoned, had another lover that he also, and now he had entered into this relationship committing adultery with this woman. So he's not a perfect defendant by any stretch of the imagination. But what was appealing for me was that his imperfections do not equate to his guilt. And too often in this country, we can see someone and think that we know who they are and throw, you know, cast them aside as if like, I don't want to bother. But everybody's life matters. Like Joseph Spell's life matters. And you can't just throw this brother away because you don't like the way he looks.
And you don't have to wait to see Marshall. It's available right now on DVD and digital platforms.
Still ahead, following his role on ABC's hit Scandal.
You've gotten yourself into a bit of trouble, Olivia, and I'm here to fix it.
Papa Pope Joe Morton is in Studio 5 with a fixing word for you.
Welcome back to Studio 5. We are almost out of time for this episode, so here's a look at what we're working to bring you next week.
We've got to move!
You're gonna be okay.
We're on the front lines.
Divorce is filed in the last 3 months. But soldiers losing families and having nothing to go home to is not the stabilizing force we need around here.
Really?
Just let me in. That's with other people's lives, just part of your job description or something.
I mean, kinda.
Yeah, well, my marriage is none of your business.
And behind the scenes of the new film, Indivisible.
I just feel like there's something more that's happening between us.
It's not between you two. It's between you two and that war.
Oh, we got 2 on the rooftop. Get us out of here. Take them out.
I trusted in God to protect those men.
And certainly hope you'll join us for that and so much more next week. As for the final word for this show, actor Joe Morton may be best known for his days in the role of Papa Pope on the hit series Scandal. He's one of many black actors who've paved the way for today's generation.
You have to be what?
Twice.
What?
Twice as good.
Twice as good as them to get half of what they have. I lost my father when I was 10 years old, under some very suspicious circumstances. I don't know that I blamed anyone at that time other than myself. My mother had a very sort of traumatic response to his death, so there was a lot going on, which made me sort of do a lot of writing, and the writing ended up being about why can't my life just be normal? And I think the one time I felt like things came together was once I decided to become an actor. We all experience it. There's a moment where something clicks inside of us, and we decide to do something about it or not, and that's what it felt like. I went to Hofstra University. I entered school as a psychology major. It was the first day of orientation. They took us around the campus. They took us into the theater, and they showed us a skit. And when the skit was over, I literally could not get up out of my seat. And I thought, I'd been playing guitar and writing music. I really love that. Maybe I could be an actor. Finally got up out of my seat, walked to the registrar's office, and changed all my majors from psychology to drama.
Joe Morton is so wise. That's a great final word for this edition of Studio 5. And that wraps this week's special look at uplifting entertainment. Until next time, make time to uplift someone else. Bye-bye, everybody.